Hi, ladies. Welcome to day 4 of our Money Mindset 5-day challenge on how to implement strategies to support you in achieving the wealth that you really desire and that you deserve. And so today is really where the rubber meets the road. It's kind of the hard one that people think of. And I've got some specific, very practical things that you can do to really support you in speaking up, which is today's strategy, is that in order to really reach those milestones, those financial milestones, you must speak up. And it is, as they say, that people fear public speaking more than they fear death. And so speaking up may not be in front of a whole crowd, but speaking up for yourself can feel like it's just the world is crashing down on you. So just some encouragement to start with, and then I'll get into the practical strategies. Don't regret not doing it earlier. There's probably things certainly in my life that I look back and think, why did I wait? There was absolutely no reason. We talked yesterday about no excuses and staying in the game. And a lot of times there's no good reason really for why we aren't moving ahead, other than some fear possibly. Also, another thing is that although our value should speak for itself, and we should be able to just have that be the case, it's not really how it works, sadly, that you really can only count on yourself to be the one ultimately that speaks up for you. And so if you've relied on others or are expecting others to be speaking up for you, or to really just be seeing your value and rewarding you because of that, that might be where some of the under-earner situations have come from in the past. And I know for me that speaking up is very hard. And so I know that I know what my value is, and I know what I want, but actually having to ask for that is so difficult. So a couple of things to watch for that are sort of characteristics of under earners in this particular case is that you might be in a situation where you're just silently stewing and thinking that people should be recognizing your value. And even if they do recognize your value, maybe they're not rewarding you for it. And so you're just kind of in a pot of stew, just sitting there. Or you decide that you're just going to leave. You're just going to leave where you're at, and it only usually ends up getting repeated elsewhere if you choose that strategy, if you keep relying on that strategy. And also realize what it's costing you not to speak up. Think of the loss that you're gaining. Let's say you want to go for a promotion, and maybe it's $1,000 a month more. And so for a year, if you don't go for that, that's $12,000 a year. And think of the cumulative effect over time of just that one situation of not speaking up and what you're losing out on. And again, back to what are you really wanting to do with the money? You're just really losing an opportunity to maybe fulfill a passion or a vision that you have, a big vision. So no matter where you are, it's not too late. It's never too late. This is a skill that you can learn. And the more you practice it, the more that you will get better at it. You have to keep practicing it. You also give others permission that when they see you speaking up, they as well will speak up. And there's a little quote that I want to read you as we're going to close up today. But just know that it's going to be uncomfortable. One of the things that I heard a long time ago that's great advice is to honor your preferences in every situation. And one of the things that does is it gives you practice of speaking up for yourself. So even in the smallest things, get used to speaking up for what it is that you want and saying it, so that when that big thing comes up, you will have practiced it and you'll know ahead of time. So some other techniques that I use that have worked really well for me are to write down kind of my thoughts, that if it's numbers I need to put down, if it's some certain scenarios, or if it's part of a conversation, I will write it down. And then one of the things that my business and speaking coach has advised us when we're putting together our talk is to get up and walk around with that piece of paper in your hand that has those words, because by speaking them aloud as you're walking around, it really gets deep down into you. It's not just up in your head or your thoughts, which if you're like me, when I get into a stressful situation, my thoughts kind of go out of my head. But if I have walked and talked my thoughts and my kind of statements that I want to say during that conversation, it's much more likely that I'm going to feel confident and be able to say what I want. Another strategy that I've used in speaking up is to slow down, because I know that when I'm speaking sometimes, my thoughts and my words are not synchronized very well, as I'm doing now. And so I realized that when I slow my pace just a tiny little bit when I'm speaking, it really allows me to stay in tune with my thoughts so that I can make sure that all the thoughts I have come out the way that I want them to. So slow down as much as you can. Also, this isn't really necessarily a training on negotiation, but one of the other things in speaking up is that once you've said your piece, just pause for a second. Just allow some silence, whether you are asking for a raise, going for promotion, raising your rates. Just pause for a second so that the other person has a chance to respond. And sometimes it can be an uncomfortable silence, but once the silence has gone on for a while, if nobody said anything, you can jump back in and just ask them, depending on what you're talking about, you can just say, well, how is that landing for you? And just get curious in terms of the conversation there. So slow your pace, pause. Again, not speaking up for yourself is really devaluing yourself. And deep down, you know your worth. I know that you do. And so my best advice just to start with is, again, really honor your preferences in every situation so that you can practice speaking up for yourself and asking for what you want. So I was going to tell you a little story about a situation recently where I had the opportunity to put this exact, all of these strategies into play like nothing else. And there was an opportunity I had to go to work on a particular project, and I was going to be talking with the manager of the company, and I knew the salary conversation was going to come up. So I did just what I'm telling you to do that works for me, is I wrote down kind of the high, medium, and low offers that I thought. And the low was really too low. I knew that for sure I was worth more than that. I was willing to accept the medium almost because I was so uncomfortable about asking for the high end. And so when it came to the salary discussion, the words in my head were from my husband about shoot for the moon. And so I said, I had practiced ahead of time what I was going to say, and I had walked and talked this. And so I kept it really simple and just said, this is the amount that I'm asking for my salary. And he didn't flinch. He didn't pause. He didn't hesitate. He said yes. And it kind of blew my mind a bit, but I thought it was the right thing to do. And it was such a high that happened. It was just, I was almost in shock a little bit because I was really getting to practice what I was learning here. And it really paid off tremendously. And not always will it be quite that way, but you don't know unless you go for it. So I want to read you, just as I close up here today, sort of how this strategy can permeate the rest of your life, not just specifically asking, for a financial, a raise, a promotion, raising your rates, but it really has ramifications that go far beyond the money. And so I'm going to share with you what Barbara Stanny says in her book about Secrets of Six-Figure Women. And the ramifications of speaking up go far beyond money. However, it works like this. Asking for more is an act of self-love. Saying no is a show of self-respect. Refusing to settle is a statement of self-worth, and walking away is a sign of self-trust. Whenever you stand up for what you want, whenever you refuse to take less than you deserve, you reinforce your self-love, self-respect, self-worth, and self-trust. In time, you'll begin to notice a shift in how you feel about yourself. Speaking up becomes not something you should do, but something you have to do, because you know in your heart that you're worth it. And I can't wait to see what you all are going to accomplish. We have one more strategy tomorrow, which is how to keep this going. How do we continue to use these strategies that we've learned this week in pursuing that next milestone in terms of our financial goals? And so, again, if you need some additional support in your business from a financial perspective, I have a free workshop this coming Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, where we will take your particular business goal and translate it through some very simple steps into a financial plan. Because so often I see women have business goals and accomplish those goals, but then the bank account doesn't show up accordingly. And they're wondering, well, I'm putting all of this effort into my business, but my financial side is not cooperating. And so I will show you how to create that financial picture of your goal so that you can decide, is the goal worth it? Do you want to pursue it? Or do you need to change it in a way so that it does become more financially lucrative for you? So I will put the link for the workshop in the comments today. And again, there will be a worksheet that I will post after the video. So have an amazing day. I am enjoying this challenge so much, and I will see you tomorrow for our last day. Bye-bye.